And we're off. Pretty Tony.
What's up?
Pretty Tony. Gorgeous Tony, I should say.
Long may the illusion live.
These video episodes are going to end it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my mother used to always say I have a face for radio. So
I think most people probably just listen. I know when I'm listening to my podcast, it's a lot of, just put it on in the background and drive. I'm not watching the TV when I'm driving.
yeah.
People will, though, once they have like full self-driving everywhere, right?
Oh yeah, they'll just plug right in. Just automate everything.
What is the story of your name? Because you're not the only Pretty Tony. There's like a legendary freestyle producer. I think he was it Debbie Deb?
The Miami contingent.
Yeah.
Yeah, made some great freestyle electro sounding records for sure. I got a few. Pretty Tony is a name given to me by my dear friend Ollie, aka Conda El Primero. And for anything, I think it's maybe a name given to me for my appreciation of women.
Nice. Okay.
Pretty Tony was a pimp in an old black.
You can put it on the iPad.
Oh, okay.
See the iPad? Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, Pretty Tony was a pimp in an old blaxploitation film. I can't remember which one.
Oh, dope.
But it stuck. I didn't go through too many DJ names. I was DJ Pivot 20 plus years ago. Mr. Twan.
Uh-huh.
That was given to me by the great Louis Hyman from San Diego. He runs a label called Forward Thought. And we had him come up and play at the Shadow Lounge back in 2004, I think. He did a live set, live PA. It was pretty rad.
Incredible. Are you from Pittsburgh? Did you grow up here?
No. From Columbus. I'm an Ohio player. But I've lived all over. Grew up moving around quite a bit. Born in Columbus. Lived in Philly. My first memories are in Texas. Arlington, Dallas area. Back to Columbus and then Pittsburgh, where I've made my home since '98. Minus 4 years in LA. I was in the middle of it, sandwiched.
What do you think kept you here? What was it about Pittsburgh that clicked?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm not from here. I don't claim Pittsburgh. I love the city. I love the history. I love the terrain. But Pittsburgh very, very much so gives me like small village vibes a lot that I kind of have an automatic flinch reaction to when I think about it. It's Appalachia, man. Mountain people. I love it. I love us, but it's
It's a weird place to be an electronic musician, right? I mean, typically when I think about making it as a techno DJ, as a EDM artist, you're talking about 4 cities: New York, Miami, LA, Vegas.
Yeah. Well, I'd say Vegas is not necessarily a selling point on a resume. It's my friend Thomas Cedia, who I used to be a co-resident with at Hot Mass here in Pittsburgh, said Vegas is where DJs go to die, essentially, or lose your soul, or what have you. Part of the the great changes of the 21st century is that you don't necessarily have to be in those cultural hubs to do your thing. Pittsburgh's a great place to do your thing, for sure, unmolested. You can throw parties, you can play events, you can release music without having to struggle and fight, that New York minute, which is really nice.
There's some incredible stuff happening from the city. I'm thinking about Pittsburgh Track Authority,
Mm-hmm.
Bus Crates, and his productions. Sean Rudiman. I mean, just in the electronic music space. Greg Gillis. I mean, there's a lot of really amazing people making electronic music here.
Oh yeah. Sean Rudiman and that whole contingent is kind of where I got my start as far as they started a collective or label called Technoir Audio, and we were militant techno DJs and producers, and that was like my first family, if you will, because when I got started, I was out. When I moved to Pittsburgh in '98, I was in the South Hills, which is not exactly a cultural hub of any sort.
For those who are listening and not sure, we are recording from the South Hills right now.
Right. Well, I mean, you're still a stone's throw from the Liberty Tunnels, which gives you a leg up there. But yeah, I was in Brentwood, which is like, what is it known for? Johnny Gamage.
I don't know.
Johnny Gamage was someone who was murdered by the Brentwood Police Department in the 90s. He was a cousin, I believe, of Pittsburgh Steeler, Ray Seals. And there was a big trial. The KKK marched down Brownsville Road in my neighborhood when that happened. So that's what we're known for.
You remember it? You saw it?
I moved to Pittsburgh in '98. I remember hearing about it. It was big headline news. The trial happened like right when I got here. I couldn't wait to get out of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I was always drawn to the east side of town as soon as I could.
The East End.
Yeah, for sure.
East Liberty for Shadow and Ava, Oakland, Squirrel Hill, Shady Side, Lawrenceville eventually.
When I started DJing in '99, going to record shops, I would see flyers for events and things. And one day I went in and saw something that just said Deeper on it. And on the back was the address and the time. It was an after hours at Shadow Lounge. And there is where I first heard house music and deep house music being played by the legends whose shoulders I stand on. John Epp and Brother Mike and Vinny, who are all over the place now. Vinny's in Michigan, John Epp's in South Korea, and Brother Mike's still here, but he's from DC. Eric Justin, all these guys were the people who showed me how this is done, essentially.
What about Eric Cohen?
DJ Strobe?
DJ Strobe. House
by,
legend. Pittsburgh house legend.
By all accounts, an absolute legend. When I became familiar with Eric, he was playing at Static in the Strip District, and I remember things taking on kind of a more EDM, even dubsteppy sometimes vibes, and that just was never my thing. Big room electronic music is never my thing, and so I always like the deeper cuts and which he is most certainly a complete legend and very much so known for. But he and I's roads never crossed by any stretch of the imagination. So when I came into the scene, house and techno was my bread and butter, but I also was highly affected by the hip hop community and hip hop scene here in Pittsburgh. And so how those two worlds merge is, I think that I've taken the party rockin' aesthetic, if you will, of of throwing down essentially, instead of just like kind of the more baking pizza style of like perfect blends. I like to hear a DJ almost as much as I like to hear the music that they're playing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. You can shorten up the blends. You can do like 4 8-bar mixes with instead of 1632. You can play on turntables instead of CDJs. You can do like more of your mixes on the fly and live, more of your mashups and bootlegs on the fly live rather than playing pre-mixed and pre-made stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to make that real.
Sure, sure.
Keep
My
it sloppy.
I
Keep it
want to
fun.
hear that you're a human being back there. In fact, that's the my prerequisite. If I don't hear something slightly off, I'm I'm suspect.
Same thing goes for the mixes too, right? I mean, I think that was the big mistake I made on my last mix that I released was I didn't even record it live. I just did it in Ableton, and you could tell, right? Like when you were listening to it, you'd listen and you'd be like, yeah, "This doesn't. There's no person here. There's nobody's behind. There's nobody behind the curtain. It's all just show."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My thing is that if you essentially if you the last thing that makes what we do a human endeavor is our ears. And so much so now I'm seeing DJs not even need headphones. They're sometimes wearing them as accessories. It looks nice, but it's not required. I would go so far as to say that that's not I wouldn't even call that a DJ.
Some of them don't have headphones and don't have any music. They're mixing from the internet, so they have just an account on Recordbox, Tidal, iTunes, whatever, Spotify, and they have no headphones and no music, and they just walk up to the turntables and they type in their password and they DJ.
Right. It's it's embarrassing. It's never been a more embarrassing time to be a DJ. I'm a DJ and a photographer, and those are the two things right now that everybody thinks they are, essentially. Which is say what you will about gatekeepers. There's lots of pros and cons that can be associated with that. The one thing that I would say is that it helped get people opportunities that otherwise wouldn't. However, the role of the gatekeeper is to keep the tomfoolery out. If you see people, I meet so many people that have no like love or like when young people ask me about advice, which they sometimes do. I mean, you don't get asked advice unless you're getting old. But I often tell them, well, first of all, do you like music? And they'll say, no, I just want to play in Ibiza someday. It's like, okay, all right. I'm sure you will reach that goal, but you don't need my help because I can't help you get there. That's not what I do. It's not what it's about for me. I'll tell people, I'll say, if I could hand you a crystal ball and none of your dreams or aspirations or wishes will come true, would you still do this? If the answer is yes, you're going to be fine. You're going to make it. You're going to make it through the inevitable setbacks, failures that are coming. But if the answer is no, that's essentially saying, is this something you do or is this something that you are? If it's not who you are, then stop now. You're taking up space.
I don't blame the DJs though. I don't blame the whippersnappers, the youngsters. I blame the fans and the audience because it's not their fault that they want to get on and play music. I mean, sure you can blame the bar owners for booking them, whatever, but they're only booking them because people showed up. And so it's actually the customer, the clientele that are showing up at these parties without even having a DJ's name on the flyer. The Taylor Swift nights, the Drake versus Beyonce nights, these themed parties with no DJ listed because there is no DJ. It's just a playlist or it's just somebody that's never done it before that's walking up to the decks and pressing play and train wrecking to, one song after another and nobody cares.
Mm-hmm. The great Fran Lebowitz said that the audience is just as, if not more important than the artist. A discerning audience makes the culture better. And so I would put some of that responsibility there. But I don't know.
How'd you end up in the Navy?
I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world. I had been working in clubs, DJing since I was 19, and by the time I was 23 or so, I said I can kind of see where this is headed. I need to go, you know, see a different continent, swim in a different ocean, you know. Um, of course, that didn't pan out like that. I ended up spending 4 years in Southern California.
Is it Pendleton or is that more Marine Corps?
Uh, no, I was stationed in Port Hueneme, California, which is a CB base, construction battalion base. They build and fight, wannabe Marines, essentially. But I worked in administrative. I took care of pay and service records. I was a good person to know if you needed something.
Yeah. I think about the VA all the time because, well, I worked last year at the VA all year, and as a neurologist, and then I'll be in a role at the VA in Kentucky, in Lexington next year.
Fantastic. From what little I know, my friends in the medical field say that the VA is great because there isn't such a pressure to see as many patients in a day as you can. You can actually take your time and give quality care, and I'm sure it has its setbacks too, but that sounds nice.
I totally agree. I think that's the exact reason. There's sort of two big reasons. One is that there's a little bit more freedom in order to spend time with patients and get the right diagnosis and give people the attention that they deserve and have earned, frankly, from my standpoint. But two, financially, there's not the same restrictions. When you're practicing within the constraints of Medicare, Medicaid, even worse, when you're practicing in the constraints of even cash pay, there's always limitations on what you can provide. At the VA, if you think it's the best medicine for the patient, they can get it. If you think it's the right procedure for the patient, they can get it. And now there's even doctor's choice or patient's choice, where if there's a physician outside the VA network that a patient that's a service member or connected, I guess is the way to say it, service connected, wants to see, then they can go see him. So it's pretty dope.
Is there any of what you hear about, which of the whining and dining from pharmaceutical companies? No pressure, but if you see an opportunity to prescribe us, we'd love that. I've heard about dinners, and
I think it used to be like that. Like by the time I got into medical school, it was like very, very rare. I remember working at a obstetrician's office, and there was like a drug rep that would come in and bring lunch for the office. Like there would be, a bunch of sandwiches out. I know there's drug dinners. There's like I've been invited to a couple dinners, whether it was medical school or in residency also, that are sponsored by, like, let's say Rytari, which is a drug for movement disorders. And they present their, opinion. Usually there's a physician in your field that's presenting what they think are the benefits of this drug. But it's done in a very above board way. Everything is very open in the public. It's, this is the research. This is why we think this is a good choice. It's never, here's like a trip to, I don't know, Cabo, if you prescribe this certain number of things.
Sure.
Whereas there were kickbacks for the vaccination program that we saw last year. We've been seeing more and more about how family medicine doctors, for example, or PCPs or pediatricians were being incentivized. $750 a patient, for example, is like one of the recent documents that's come forward based on how many of their patients they can convince to get vaccinated. So I didn't see it personally. I'm sure it's out there. I mean, I'm sure, especially I think with the opioid epidemic, that's the big example, right? Is a lot of people saw the documentary called Painkiller
Hmm.
on Netflix, where they were actually recruiting young, attractive women to intentionally convince physicians to prescribe more opiates and prescribe more OxyContin.
Hmm. Well, I have a ex-girlfriend who is, I believe, still a head nurse over at Hillman Cancer Center, and was offered a job giving these educational lectures at dinners for a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
She was offered 3 times more money than she's ever made in her entire life. She turned it down because she said, "I can't work for a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
That's evil. It's literally."
Yeah, and until you learn about the orphan drug programs, and until you learn about, the drug that we have that actually cures Hep C now, until you learn about the drugs that have been developed by drug companies, obviously they can't be developed any other way. There's no money in it for
Mhm.
a private company to develop these drugs that have made HIV untestable now to the point that you don't even have to disclose in some states whether or not you're positive because your viral level is so low, it's no longer mandatory legally to tell someone before you have sex with them. Like wild drugs. I mean, drugs that are allowing people to live completely as if they don't have it, right? I mean, and same thing with Hep C. It's a curative drug. There's drugs that cure cancer. We have drugs that,
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Cure?
yeah,
Cure?
yeah, autologous. So there's a, yeah, there's like what's called CAR T cell therapy, where they have a targeted drug that um, uses your own immune system, trains your immune system to attack the cancer cells, and is a curative therapy. I think it's for. Trying to remember which cancer it's for. I'm thinking one of the B cell lymphomas, something like that. I'll look it up and put it in the notes. So yeah,
Wow.
I mean, there's pluses and there's pros and cons, right, of everything.
Oh, for sure. I always remind people that when they criticize the West, that we are responsible for things like the medicine chest and great advances in science uh, and culture. So
For sure. I
uh,
mean, a lot of it was like Operation Paperclip. Like we stole the intelligentsia from Nazi Germany in order to develop a lot of stuff, like our atomic bomb program. A lot of people know about that, but it was also vaccines and et cetera. So
mhm. Well, I've certainly earned my stripes criticizing this country, but I can do it from a place of having served it. You know.
totally, yeah. Well, I'm interested to hear how you feel about it, kind of after having, I guess, retired from service, or how did it work? How did
Uh,
you
no, I did
leave?
4 years, which retiring from the military is a big deal. That's something I could not possibly comprehend what it must be like. 20 plus years in the military is a really big deal. Um, but I knew I didn't want to make it a career. So after my 2 years in Port Hueneme, California, it was time to transfer. They like you moving around from sea duty to shore duty and vice versa. But when they said, uh, Mr. Susan, Seaman Susan, uh, due to needs of the Navy, we would love to keep you on here at Port Hueneme, California. It's not going to be good for your career, but if you can do it, we would love that. And I knew I didn't want to make it a career. And I'm looking around; it's sunny 300 days out of the year. I was living in LA for a great portion of it, DJing. Um, so I kind of hit the lottery as far as service goes. To
It was close enough to LA that you could DJ on weekends and stuff. Or?
I lived in Culver City,
Oh, cool.
right by Venice, Santa Monica.
Yeah. I was just in Culver City. One of my good friends lives there, and there's this amazing museum called the Venda Museum. It's the Museum of the Cold War, WENDE.
Hmm.
Real cool. NPR is based out of Culver City too.
Yeah, I think Sony Studios is there.
Yeah, it's a cool spot. I mean, the vistas, like you were talking about the topography of Pittsburgh. That's the thing I think I like the most about Los Angeles is just the hikes, the views, the environment is unbelievable.
It's paradise.
It really, truly. I mean, it's a desert,
Women, weed, and weather, as Kendrick said.
Totally. Yeah. Great place to visit. As Biggie said. Yeah. Right?
I'm hearing horror stories now. It's being news coming back is that it's becoming lawless, and
I think it's vastly overblown. So when I was there, last month, I was expecting mayhem, and I think a lot of that is just the news sources that I take in. It's just like all of it is about, if it's a Democrat run state, it's going to be a shithole. If it's a Democrat run, city, it's going to be lawlessness, shithole, whatever. And that's all. I think a lot of it is just propaganda, man. I think there's just a lot of incentive to steer people towards that narrative. And it really is a narrative. I mean, yes, there's problems, but there always have been. Like, there's always been homelessness in
God,
Cali.
yeah.
In the 60s. There was people would sleep on the streets. It was the hippies, man.
In the service, when New York guys would argue or debate with LA guys about which city's the best or or better city, the New York guys would almost invariably win that argument when they would say, yeah, well, at least we wouldn't burn down our own city.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, a lot to unpack. I think about, of course, Detroit, like the Detroit riots. Was it 67?
Mm-hmm.
Algiers Motel. Crazy, crazy, crazy. The movie Detroit has, I think, like one of the most amazing perspectives on that story. Just incredible.
My mother was born in Detroit and is part of the White Flight. She was born in 65 there and was gone not long after those riots.
Yeah, that's a common story. It wasn't just the rebellion. I think people like to use different words for what it was, right? It was like riots, rebellion. But it was also the Beltway. So there was all this federal money to develop these highway systems around cities. It happened in Atlanta, it happened in Detroit, happened in Chicago. Every major American city had this kind of beltway that was put in around it, which allowed people to live in the suburbs
in
the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Destroyed the inner city.
James Howard Kunstler, a writer I like, he calls the suburbs the greatest misallocation of resources the world has ever seen. It's based off of a concept of like never-ending oil, which, as Tower of Power said, there's only so much oil in the ground.
Well, I've been reading about that. This is crazy. Listen to this. And I don't know much about this. Like, I really don't. But the whole idea of like fossil fuels, basically like the idea that all oil is made from dead vegetative matter and dead dinosaurs or whatever, like that is basically not true. They've found oil on planets, like on a moon of Saturn is just full of oil. Apparently. Like I don't know. I'm not an expert on this, bro. But like there was never anything living there. Apparently, like oil can be the product of just carbon being compressed. And like, so I don't know. I don't know if it is limitless. I mean, I don't know if it is limited. I'm not sure.
All I know is windmills and electricity isn't going to keep us at the quality of life that we've grown accustomed to.
For sure. That's for damn sure. Yeah.
The idea of the salad that traveled 3,000 miles to get to your plate has to end. It can't be sustainable. It has to end. We have to, not that I'm looking forward to like cows in the yard and going back to that. I personally love that I can go to the grocery store and get a pineapple in January. But so I'm into the globalization, but we need to just balance it out a little bit.
For sure. And I'm sure you probably have insight into this with your involvement in the restaurant industry too, right? I mean, you probably think about it in terms of what gets plated and what gets served.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much waste. There's so much waste in the service industry. I've waited tables and tended bar almost continuously for the last 10 years or so, and it's wild.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen some things. I remember living with a kid that was waiting tables in Boston. Um, he loved it. I loved hearing about the language, about I'm in the weeds and all of the kind of the bar drink, the shift drink at the end of
The shifty.
Yeah, it was cool hanging out with him, and it was a restaurant in Fenway, which is kind of like the Back Bay of Boston, called Eastern Standard.
Mhm.
It's a sister restaurant of Island Creek Oyster Bar, which is one of my favorite restaurants in the world. And I used to eat there way too much because I was living on loans and just loved charcuterie, loved oysters, lobster on the half shell, just whatever, just the cold bar is amazing.
An oyster at a very young age is ruined me so much that I think that's probably why I can't do seafood. It's almost like
wow,
the texture or the smell. I have feverish, nightmarish dreams about that oyster I had when I was 10 years old.
That's like me in Kahlua. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something like that. Taste aversions is I think what it's called.
I know I'm missing out, but it's also like Pittsburgh.
It's not the seafood capital of America. I mean, we've got the haddock, right? We've got the big fish sandwich, the colossal fish at Permanis. We've got fish fry Fridays is during Lent, right? There's some options, but none of them are very good.
Yeah, I can handle that. That's why the only supplement I take is fish oil, because I don't get it in my diet for sure.
We were talking about hepatitis earlier, so Hep A is also carried. Yeah, I mentioned the drug that can cure Hep C, but hepatitis A is carried in oysters. Yeah, you can get it from them. And Vibrio. I actually one of the craziest stories I have from Charleston. I did my neurology residency in Charleston, and part of that is you have to do an intern year in medicine, just general medicine, internal medicine, and part of that is working in the emergency room and in trauma. And so I was in the ED in Charleston, and I had like the two most Charleston complaints you can get. One guy came in with Vibrio from shucking oysters. He was like opening up oysters and cut his finger, and he had this special infection that you can only get from oysters, from shelling oysters. And the other guy had fish and grits induced chest pain. We thought he had a heart attack, but it was actually just too much fish and grits. Shrimp and grits. Sorry.
Yet another reason.
Just stay away.
Oysters have hepatitis. I'm cool. Or whatever.
Yeah, Hep A and Vibrio. So,
yikes.
I want to hear more about the DJ story. So it was like, what was it about techno that brought you in? Was there something about, was it the people? Was it the sound, the style, like something about the music or the feeling or what? The drugs? What?
Everything. I have a lot of gratitude for a friend of mine. When I first moved here to Pittsburgh, his name was Chris Schubert, and he and I just got into, this is the late 90s, we got into more alternative things like trip hop, and we were listening to Tricky, Massive Attack, Portishead, and then it moved into like the Mushroom Jazz series where we would hear DJs like Mark Farina. And I owe a lot to him for who I am in a lot of sense in regards to music and art. But in 99, I believe, or maybe 2000, they broadcasted on a website called groovetech.com, which they broadcasted on Real Player. You remember Real Player?
Real Player, I remember.
Yeah, Real Player. Yeah. It was always buffering and it looked choppy. They broadcasted every single live set and DJ set from the first Detroit Electronic Music Festival.
Whoa.
And we're 14, 15-year-old kids watching these with popcorn like every night, saying, wow, like, like, look at that, and we got to do this. And it was just incredibly inspiring. And we knew those sets like the back of our hands, because we memorized and watched them so much that we knew it was the catalyst that kind of propelled us to like be like, we have to do this. And so not long after that, 98, 99 was when we each both got our first set of turntables. And we always collected more records than just house and techno. I always loved hip hop, always loved like, different things. You had to have different kinds of records. Um, but that was my bread and butter. That was like my main ingredient for sure. And um, when you first start out, you buy 3 or 4 records, and then you DJ them over and over and over again until you want to throw up, and then you buy 3 or 4 more records, and it, you build and build. And but so that being said, like I always looked for source material that inspired a lot of these records. So, and I have, due to my geographic location, the great privilege of being in the same city as Jerry's Records and the Attic in Millvale. And so, digging for a lot of this source material, I often get um, painted with the disco DJ brush, which have tried to shuck off or avoid, but it's fine. I do a party with Jarrett Tebb. It's called Disco Sunday Disco at Trace. It's exactly what it is.
Amazing party, legendary, incredible. Yeah, such good vibes. I love how it switches from being like kid friendly during the day, and then as it gets later, it turns into just like really let loose. Amazing. It's so cool how it's almost like 2 parties in one.
Thank you. I thank you for saying that. I agree, and I think it's arguably one of the best parties going on in the city. Jarrett's done an incredible job putting it together, and it's an outdoor daytime disco event that goes on year round. So even if you have the winter blues, there's no better remedy. There's no better cure. We do fire pits out on the dance floor, and it's up to you to stay warm, to move, and it's up to us to get you to move. So between Jarrett and the guests that he has come on and play, I can't think of anything cooler happening. Sometimes it has like the do-over vibes, and sometimes people really go in. So, but my perfect scenario would be, or my ideal situation is one in which I'm weaving seamlessly through disco to today's like techno and house domestic that's coming from like Chicago, New York, Detroit. But to answer your question, kind of went off on a tangent there, but Detroit is Mecca for me. That's where that whole sound and that whole style of DJing, the Midwest style of DJing, the watch me fuck shit up style, slamming stuff in, backspins, EQing, beat juggling, up faders. Like I want to like that's how I started DJing. I probably have relaxed in my older age. I'm not whizzing around the DJ booth like I was when I was a young whippersnapper, but that whole like you're going to hear me put my touch on this was the most important thing to me as far as DJ culture, and that all comes from Detroit.
I feel that so much. I think it was a lot of competition. It was like, oh, you can do that. Watch me do this. It was, Jeff Mills adding the third turntable. It was
That's the god.
Richie Houghton, taking it and kind of like bringing in the Balearic, the Ibiza sounds, and adding it to the Detroit techno. It was Kevin Saunderson branching out and doing the live element, and it was Amp Fiddler bringing in the MPC and the hip hop sounds and the live violins and the drums.
Rest in peace.
It was incredible. It was Carl Craig kind of finding that like true Chicago Detroit blend of soul and house music, but interpolating it with that Detroit bare techno gritty like sound. It was Juan Atkins going back to like the literal roots of the word techno and trying to like figure out what the lore is and finding out like, is this messages from outer space? Are we aliens? You know, like, is this like, what is this thing that we're doing? Like the true robotic, like we are robots, right? It was like from Kraftwerk.
You can thank Juan Atkins for the name techno for sure. The story is that when things were starting to bubble there, they were
Techno City was the name of the record.
Yeah, they were asked to put out a record from a label, I think in England, and the tentative name of it was going to be the Detroit Sound of House or something like that. And he said, no, we'll call this techno music.
Yeah,
Thank God.
He had Techno City was the record on Model 3000.
It's the Techno City is the name of the song that he submitted for that compilation.
Dope.
And
so cool.
And that had something to do with the whole changing of it in the digression or the moving away from it. Just
so dope that they're all still making music too. That's one of the craziest things.
You were mentioning some heroes of mine, but the one I would say more so than ever would be Derek May, who they call the innovator. But his style of DJing, in particular, and the music he made with the help of a young Carl Craig, just meant the world to us. And the Midwest sound was really important. Guys like Tatantan Devante in Columbus, from the Ohio contingent. These were DJs that would just... Claude Young in Detroit used to go by the Wobbler. He would beat juggle with his tongue. You know, and to say that all that I ask for when I hear a DJ is that it's you. What do I get? What do I get for that suggestion? I get someone whose taste are arguably probably just some algorithm that was fed to them. And like you said, no intention of purchasing the music that they are performing with. And I'm not Mr. Vinyl. Again, that's another brush people try to paint me with, like vinyl DJ. Like I play it all. My preferred situation is CDJs and turntables together, and to go in between each.
With the vinyl on the turntables and sticks for your CDJs.
Exactly.
So you can kind of have sound effects on the sticks or like whatever you want.
Or just play some digital tracks.
Or other records,
some Bandcamp joints or some, whatever.
So you can...
My very first time playing on a CDJ, I put it off as long as I could. I think it was 2015 was the first time I was asked to play at Hot Mass by an outsider, I might add. Another dig at Pittsburgh. But Thomas Cecilia, who used to run the Electric Pickle in Miami.
Yeah, amazing spot. That's where I used to go to see Soul Clap, Eli from Soul Clap a lot. They would play there all the time. And Eli is somebody who I see in Detroit every year I go, and we get to hang out, and it's always good time. So shout out to Eli Soul Clap.
When I played at the Pickle, I was upstairs opening up for Ocean Latte while Soul Clap was downstairs, which was a great party. It was during Art Basel. And
I was probably there.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I lived there for 4 years, whatever.
Yeah?
Yeah, for medical school. I was in South Florida. That's where I met my wife.
That sounds like an ideal college situation.
Yeah, it was amazing. Definitely. I mean, I think college in Pittsburgh was perfect. Pittsburgh is a perfect place to be in college.
Mm-hmm.
But I was glad I went down there. So you were at the Pickle, and where does this one go?
Well, I did. I was mentioning that I got to play there, but Thomas Cedia, who used to run that place, moved to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburghers love an outsider. Anything
yes, I've been told this.
I don't know if it's a self-hatred or what, but if you're not from here, woo, splash. But not to knock him. He's amazing. He's great. But it was him that saw me playing and was like, "You're great. Please come do this with me at Hot Mass." And Oh, the first time I played a CDJ was that night. I said I knew there were gonna be CDJs there. I might as well put 3 or 4 songs here just in case. And I put it in, figured out how to navigate the menus enough to get the song on. And I remember not understanding that there was a button that would make it go right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Which meant that after I was riding it to get it to where I needed to be, I rewound the spindle for like 200 rotations to get it back to the very beginning to play. But it worked. Sometimes the ways you learn things are by just literally jumping out into the void.
Yeah, and you have to. I mean, I think you have to have both. You have to experience the struggle of not knowing, right? You have to empty your cup completely in order to gain new information, but you also have to go talk to the people who know what they're doing and get those hacks, right? It's like there's no way. I mean, there's no way I was going to learn how to DJ. There's no way I was going to learn how to scratch if I didn't call up Bonix and have him come over to my apartment in Oakland and show me how to hold the fader. Like, here, your thumb goes here. You click it like that. Left hand goes here. Practice this for 3 weeks and call me once you've mastered it.
Mm-hmm. That's like Rocky just throwing jabs.
Oh, and then I called him and I got the next one.
Right arm
yeah,
like
and then I got the next pattern after 3 weeks. Practice that for 3 weeks and then call me when you've mastered that. So,
one of my favorite tools for teaching people to mix or to blend is to do it without headphones. So if you got it, it's easier with like something that's like very just like a rhythmic techno or house song, just a 4 on the floor. You put it on and then you put the next one on and you find it in real time out in the speakers and you try to see how fast you can get it. And once you start like learning how to do that, when you got headphones on, it's like a leg up. It makes it even easier.
That makes sense. Yeah. I know there are people who mix in their headphones. I can't understand that at all. Like people who have the mix in their left ear and they'll have the cue in the right ear, things like that, like a split cue. That makes no sense to me. Like obviously I just want all cue in my headphones always, and I want a really good booth monitor. And then usually I'll have the booth monitor in my left ear and the mix on my right ear, or mix in the monitor in my left ear and the cue in my right ear with my left headphone can off, right? So I just have to hear that, or you can use one of those little like the little phone thing,
like a lollipop.
Yeah,
like a lollipop headphone. Yeah, those are great.
Like whatever, just pick it up. But I like to have it on all the time, just so you don't have to constantly be like picking it up and whatever.
My old friend Eric Justin makes custom lollipop headphones that they're so great. The idea of it is that you have to put it down so that you can be with the people.
I think it's brilliant. It's huge.
Experiencing what they're experiencing, and
I'm into it, definitely.
That whole art of reading a crowd and adjusting. Some DJs will never play anything they haven't perfectly rehearsed at home beforehand. And then there's DJs like me who just throw a bunch of dance floor hammers in the box. Generally speaking, I'll think of like, well, this is what I'll play if it's 10 p.m. and no one's in the building yet. And then this will be like in the middle, and this is like the take it home, pouring gasoline and lighting a match on the dance floor kind of stuff.
Amazing.
Those are my crates, and those are my digital crates too. I have 3 folders that are just like that.
That's all it is. There's no genre distinctions.
Oh, no.
No tempo distinctions. It's literally just moods. It's nobody's dancing yet. Let's see if we can encourage some people to dance. People are dancing, but they're not at peak mayhem yet and insanity.
Those are my literal 3 categories when I'm pulling records or when I'm picking digital stuff.
I love that. Yeah, I think there's so many different ways to do it. I've gone genre, but I think it's wrong. I think it's probably the wrong way to do it. The reason you don't want to limit yourself to one genre almost ever. There's almost no time that you ever want to limit yourself to one genre.
The literal reason why I don't organize my record collection is because I want happy accidents. I want to be like, holy shit, who knew that Tone Loc and the Police sounded great together, you know, or whatever.
Have you gotten a chance to play in Detroit at all?
No, never. But it's I have tons of friends there. Just
Do you know Katie?
Katie Smokes Hydro.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
She'll put you on.
Yeah. I'm not out here like
It's not a huge priority for you to like blow up your career.
There's something about my DNA or my genes or something that just I don't want to ask to be invited to your party.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm used to being invited.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like a nose in the air kind of thing, but like I don't want to say, hey, will you book me? Pick me. Because I see it.
I don't know how
rampant.
that works. Yeah, I don't know exactly how that works. I mean, I think for me, I would love for like, that's a tough one. I think maybe you're supposed to have somebody who makes those phone calls for you, like a booking agent or something, or that's who other people call.
If I know I'm going to be in Philadelphia or something, I'll text my people there and say, hey,
Yeah.
any opportunities you know of?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to cold call someone and say, hey, someone told me you're the one to talk to. I bet things would maybe be a lot different for me if I had a promo kit or whatever.
You don't have a press kit?
No. What? I'm not a business person. What am I going to do? So, I don't know. I'm like I want the reason why Disco Sunday Disco does so well is because people word of mouth.
Yeah.
And people just come and experience it and then talk. Our flyers are like cheap cartoons.
Sure.
We're not going crazy on it. I'm the kind of guy that likes to just humbly and quietly do my thing.
But at the same time, wouldn't it be dope to just be a DJ, or like just have that be all you needed to do?
Sure. You know Kathy Lee, Yeji, famous,
Not sure.
world famous DJ producer.
I don't think so.
She had a huge hit with called "Make It Rain, Girl." Make it rain, girl. Make it rain. Anyway,
Not sure.
She used to.
I'm like even more hip hop than you.
Oh yeah.
I'm like very much in the hip hop world.
Okay.
I never learned CDJs. I played on CDJs for the first time 6 weeks ago at Pittsburgh Open Decks.
Okay. Do you like it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was so great not having the computer, not having the distraction, so that I could really focus on what I was doing and focus on the crowd.
Yeah, and your face lit up like like a psycho. And you're like, what? It looks like it's like, what is he doing looking at the computer? Checking his email? Probably.
A lot of people are. I mean, yeah, probably. So people look so bored when you go see them DJ with a computer, and it's just.
My whole point with that was if I'm gonna go digital, I don't want to lug turntables.
So controller?
CDJs, they're so light.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a game changer. I didn't know that.
They will not.
I figured they were the same weight as a Tech 20.
Not even remotely
Tech 12.
close. Probably half the weight. It's just they're plastic.
Whoa. That's crazy. Actually, that's a game changer.
Yeah, it's like why am I going digital if I and still lugging these effing turntables? So, it just doesn't seem like the right move. But some people just love that feel. They need a 1200 or whatever. Especially hip hop DJs. I could see why it would be a long time for you or Selecta or.
It was definitely bad for my career not learning. I mean, it was really bad for sure. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I could have made it work if I would have just branched out a little, been a little bit more fluid.
Well, a professional Well, one of the reasons why I did it was because not all clubs are set up for vinyl, and a professional should be able to keep the party rocking, whether you have hiccups or issues or whatever. Your job is to not let the dance floor die.
That's why I know how to beatbox.
Yeah, you got a wrench working this.
I saw somebody do that one. I saw a video not too long ago. Somebody fixing some piece of production gear live while they were DJing. It was pretty impressive with like little wrenches and shit.
Yeah,
little screwdriver, took apart like one of the channels on the mixing board, fixed it, and plugged it back in. That's like a Joe thing. Joe Palermo, the drummer for Basic Sickness, he would fix speakers while we were rocking shit like that, like with soldering irons and
in
shit.
real time.
Insane. Yeah, that kid was crazy. Still
That's
is.
awesome.
Yeah, works for a robot company now.
There's this great disco and house DJ from Chicago named Rahan, who there's a viral video of him playing a basement party in like the early 2000s, and something goes wrong. The sound cuts out, and the audience starts singing, "We don't need no music," or and they're going crazy while like everyone's like trying to figure out and fix it, and then right when they get it back on, music comes on perfectly in time with it. Like it's like the dance floor. The audience saved that.
Yeah,
party.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's brilliant. You should see. I'll send you a link to that if you haven't.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I've got a great video of Flostradamus in Boston at Paradise Rock Club. Flostradamus, Chicago, like EDM duo. It was big in the trap world in like 2011, 12.
Okay.
Associated with Diplo, Bauer. Do you remember Moonbatone?
None of these names are ringing.
You don't know Moonbatone?
I'm in my bubble, man.
Moonbatone, man. That was like the big genre that I was involved with when I was here in Pittsburgh.
That's a genre?
Yeah, it's slowed down house music.
Moonbatone? I know what you're doing. I've heard what you're doing right now. Is that like a quintessential
Yeah, I think so.
Moonbatone?
Yeah, it's
song?
like a Moomba record.
See, man, I'm literally. I remember someone playing me.
You remember the Harlem Shake?
I vaguely remember
the Harlem Shake.
I remember like not TikToks, but whatever it was before TikTok.
Everybody was frozen.
Yeah. Okay. Someone played for me a song by an R&B artist called The Dream.
Yes,
recently.
Incredible.
And I was floored. I was blown away.
Yeah,
and I think it was because during the 2000s, I was on some militant techno shit. And I was just...
Detroit Techno Militia. DJ Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an interview with him somewhere, unreleased.
Sean's really good friends with those guys.
Nice.
They had him perform at the Detroit Electronic Music Festival. I think he played their stage or something like that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I saw him at Tangent Gallery. Black Madonna was walking around.
Maria, yeah.
It was pretty like amazing scene. Like a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a long time. Just like
what's her new DJ name now?
The Blessed Madonna.
The Blessed Madonna. Okay. Yeah, she's cool.
I didn't know her first name. That's pretty awesome.
I've seen her throw down a couple times. She's played here a lot. She's really close with the Honcho crew.
Okay.
She shouted them out on a RA video that really helped put Honcho and Pittsburgh on the map as far as like electronic music.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, it seems
she
like
love bombed them essentially.
Yeah.
Which is really sweet of her.
Yeah, no, I mean you can tell that like she's very much, doing it for the right reasons. Honcho is more of like the hot mass. Is it Aaron
Clark?
Aaron Clark, yeah.
Someone who's been incredibly sweet to me in as long as I've known him. I live in his apartment. He moved out so that I can move in.
Dope.
Into the place I live in that I've lived in for the last 8 years in Bloomfield.
Is that the one they were posting online that looked like a party like venue?
My house?
I don't know. They were like, dude from Honcho was posting photos of an apartment. Like, hey, you should rent this apartment. It was about 6 months ago or so. And I was like, this place looks dope. I was looking at it. I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get that one. I'm gonna do my podcast out of it. Is that your place?
Maybe. I don't know if I saw that post. Our apartment was a party house for a very long
It
time.
probably is. Hilarious.
And oh, man, people would go to Hot Mass, which is a party that starts at midnight generally on Saturday and goes sometimes till 6, 7 in the morning. Hence the name Hot Mass, Sunday morning. But our place was where people would go after that. So you can get the picture, if you will. Bunch of people standing around. This is great, like at 2 p.m. the next day, still up from the night before.
Yeah.
Hedonism.
Yeah.
As we call it.
Yeah.
The pleasure principle is what we were living.
It is an orienting principle, and it can get you somewhere. I'm not convinced that it's where you want to go. I mean, it's definitely not where I want to go. I think it's like the opposite is kind of where I've been trying to orient myself in 2024. Something like sublimation would be the right word of the contradictory impulse, where instead of going after immediate gratification, you're looking to the future. You're intentionally delaying gratification in order to improve the lives of others and improve the world.
Big time. Mm-hmm. My thing was that when I turned 30, which was 9 years ago, I looked back at my 20s and said, holy shit, I spent my best years married and in the military. I'm going to have as much fun as I can possibly can. And did exactly that. From like 30 to 35 or so. And then you said, okay, back to reality. Time to take thought for the morrow. And
rein it in.
Yeah. So, women, you meet women have been great. They're the most
they're what makes life worth living.
They're the most forgiving creatures. I don't know what they see in us. But
I feel that.
Some great women have helped straighten me out in my life.
Amen to that. Yeah, that's how I learned how to shave. Shout out Jane Kelly. My dad never taught me.
Yeah?
Women taught me most of the things I know. Not how to DJ.
It's a great advantage in life to be born to a beautiful woman who loves you. And we haven't really talked about my folks, but my mom, I'd say my mom's eclectic music taste had a very powerful impact on me growing up, riding in her Suzuki Samurai Jeep. And we would be listening to everything from Bobby Brown, PM Dawn, to Heart, to Bob Marley, Alice in Chains, everything. There was nothing off limits for her. And that my old man's much, much, much older, so he was strictly doo-wop, strictly oldies. And, can't change. Old dogs don't like to change, but had an appreciation for a lot of stuff.
Was that stuff on the radio when you were growing up in Columbus, or I guess your earliest memories were in Texas? Was it the radio that they were listening to, like in the Suzuki, or was she playing CDs or tapes, or 8-tracks, or what?
Mom had and Dad had loads and loads of records, but my mom really got into the compact disc movement for sure. Was an early adopter.
Yeah. CDs are amazing. I mean, the sound quality on CDs is phenomenal, and they're actually like really easy to store and transport. People sleep on CDs pretty hard, because they get scratched. But if you take good care of them, just like a record, it's going to be part of the family for a long time.
And it won't just, maybe happen to disappear.
Right. You mean like your hard drive
file? Yeah. Right. Where did my records go? You won't have to say that with a compact disc or records. I remember I've seen your interview here with Todd Keebs, and I was interested to hear his his vinyl being a inferior sound quality argument, which is great that his reason for not playing vinyl has changed over the years. He used to say that he didn't play vinyl because he liked to concentrate on other things. And I'd be like, what other things are you concentrating on? What is it you do here? If you're
lasers, man, it's the fucking laser beams. What are you talking about? No, he had a lot of controllers. Like he was always into the MIDI mapping. Like he would MIDI map controllers and have like different buttons trigger different effects, I think. Maybe changing costumes, taking pictures. He does a lot of stuff at his parties, man. He reminds me of myself in so many ways. Yeah. I used to do it all. I used to do lights, take the photos at the party, welcome everybody in, get their email addresses, DJ.
Never could do that. I would bring my DSLR to the party that I'm DJing and promoting and hosting, and I can't have 4 different brains at once. I just can't. Like I can do one thing at a time, and that's all, and that's it. I've tried. The pictures either the pictures never turn out right, or the headliner's pissed off because I haven't been there to see if he needs a vodka soda or whatever, or this, like just a million. You can't. It's
a lot.
I have to simplify my life.
How'd you get into taking photos? Was it just party life? Or?
No. I left university. I studied communication at Pitt.
Like Bonix.
Yeah.
Brandon Glova. Shout out Brandon Glova. My favorite Filipino.
Bonix, I have a funny story about him. He came into 720 Records once while Selecta, myself, and my DJ mentor and close friend Kurt Jackson from Rotating Souls Records in Atlanta. He's based out there now. He used to live here. Kurt's an incredible human, very eclectic music taste, incredible DJ, takes chances. I once saw him at a party, lock 2 records by blending them, take his headphones off, and come out to the dance floor and dance to his own mix.
Nice,
because they were so
he knew it was
glued
locked, yeah.
in.
Yeah,
cool. Like he'd walk over and give it a little turn, but he was locked in.
Cool.
And just to see that showmanship and that bravado and that like playing incredible deep music, just Kurt Jackson is a god for me for sure. So but anyway, we were in the record store, and this, I actually brought it today. This record came out called The Berg by Larry McGee and the Revolutions.
The Berg,
yeah,
Pittsburgh, PA, The Berg.
Rare
the Berg.
soul,
nice little disco kind of cut.
Yeah, it's
a
a
little
funk
bit
jam.
underproduced, unfortunately. Like it's not quite mastered, quite loud enough, I think, like for my personal taste.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an amazing record.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought it. I don't know if I've ever seen it or heard it on wax. It might sound better on wax.
The original is almost impossible to find.
It's a repress.
Yeah. But the repress is now valuable, I think. But
that happens.
So it's got a 7. I was looking at it today. It's got a 720 record sticker on it, dated from 2006.
Dope.
So we were in the shop in East Liberty's location in 2006. This record came out. I grabbed a copy. My friend Kurt Jackson grabbed a copy, and Bonix walks in and grabs all the remaining 6 copies. And I was like, why are you doing that? He said, I don't want anyone else in the city to have this record. And I was like, right? like, okay. What's crazy about that? I could see the look on your face. That's funny.
Dope. That's so hip hop.
Yes.
So fucking hip hop, bro.
What's crazy about that story is it doesn't make sense in 2024.
Right.
There's nothing about it that is real. It's like talking about a rotary phone or whatever. It's like it's totally gone.
He played that record at Red Bull, the first Red Bull 3 style.
Oh yeah?
He played that record. There's a recording of it. DJ Curve recorded his set. He brought out an air horn, and go on YouTube. I'll put a link to it in the description.
Was this not in Pittsburgh, or was it?
It was in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
it was at Zen, I think. And Zen, was it Zen in the Strip or something like that? And or maybe Station Square. And And yeah, Curve got a great video of it. He either started his set with the Berg or he ended it with the Berg, which is amazing. Like, and nobody had heard the record. Nobody had heard it because he bought every fucking one.
Now you know why. No one got to hear that record.
Yes. Go Bonix, man. Yes. Yes. Sometimes you got to. Sometimes you have to be a little shiesty in order to win, especially in business. You know, DJing's a business. It's cutthroat.
Mhm.
It's either I get the gig or you get the gig. There's
Mhm.
only one gig. It's either you or me. That's what DJing is.
Whew. I hear you, and I know what you're saying is absolutely right. It's a strange world. We started, but got off on a tangent. We started talking about Kathy Lee. It was a really big deal. Look her up.
Dope.
She used to be on flyers opening for me, and now she's at Documental or whatever enormous major music. She is the top tier.
Dope.
But however, I once was at a coffee shop minding my own business, and in walked my old friend Lauren Gashinsky, who used to run the Via Music Festival here in Pittsburgh.
Oh, dope. I remember that.
Her and Quinn. To me, absolutely, she's a hero of mine. They put on some of the coolest events the city has ever seen.
Yeah.
Very far out, very art oriented, making things that you can't see or experience anywhere else. And the city's lost by losing her. When she moved to New York, I talked to her. I said, what's going on? She said, Pittsburgh doesn't want me. She said, I want to be here.
Like the same thing happened with Kristen Cat Party to Austin or wherever she left to. It was like the same thing, but with my generation, like 5 years later.
Mm-hmm.
It's my feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally don't blame these people at all. Same thing happened with Katie, I would say, to Detroit. It's like Pittsburgh doesn't really give a shit, like ultimately when it comes down to it. I mean, how frustrating is it? I think, imagine trying to do your party as a weekly and just tell me how frustrating that would be.
Yeah.
That's the only way. You can't make it. If it's not a weekly, you can't survive if you're not playing 2-3 nights a week. I mean, think about it. Like, you have to make $1,000 a week minimum to survive. Minimum.
Yeah.
Probably closer to 1,500, 2,000.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you get 500 a gig at one of these bars. If it's your own party, maybe you make a little more if you have a good bar deal. But we're talking about 2-3 gigs a week just to survive, not to make any extra money, just to survive, pay your rent and your groceries.
In my absolute prime heyday, which was when we used to do the chocolate boombox parties, which are now infamous. We made a lot of chocolate boombox babies. I think a lot of people fell in love at those parties. But I was thrilled if I paid my rent that night, and I would generally. But Pittsburgh's a tough city, man.
That's how I was.
Tough.
That's how I was. That's how I was paying my rent when I lived underneath 5801.
Mm-hmm.
Was I would DJ upstairs.
The shady side.
Yeah, Ellsworth.
Yeah.
5801 Ellsworth.
Havana. I heard you talking to Selecto on the podcast here about Havana.
Havana was the Club Spin or whatever across the street.
That's what was or is called now.
Yeah.
When I was not old enough to be in bars, I would be snuck in by my dear friend Jason C. Shout out Jason C. He gave me one of my first jobs DJing at Club Havana.
Yep.
Before I was old enough to be in there. Then they used to steal me and sneak me into the upstage to go see Easy Lou afterwards on Thursdays. But between the Shadow Lounge and Club Havana, these are the clubs and parties that made me who I am and defined my clubbing or nightlife experience for the rest of my life. And I sometimes feel really sad, and I feel like we got off on a kind of a sour note, like to begin with. But I feel bad for the choices or the options that partygoers have nowadays. What are you being given for your dollar?
It's sad. It's sad because you have to choose between being crushed. If you want to hear the right music, you have to be crushed into this little tiny dance floor that's like 2 feet by 2 feet. and you can't actually dance, but you can see the DJ you want to see, or you can go to a club with plenty of space, but it's all bottle service. There's absolutely nowhere to sit. You physically cannot sit down unless you pay $300 for a bottle or you know somebody who did, and you probably don't like the DJ. That's your choice. Have fun. Good luck. Or you can go to Disco Sunday Disco. That's it. Those are your only 3 choices. Once a month.
I'm triggered by your mentioning the very small dance floors. Havana had a very small dance floor, but it kind of was perfect in that it lent itself to, you want your party to be shoulder to shoulder in a ways. That's how you know it's lively and fun. Sometimes you go into a club that has like too big of a capacity, and there could be 200 people in there, but you're like, where is it?
I saw a crazy one with this. It was a club that had a back wall that moves.
Oh, I did see
to
that.
get bigger.
I did see
How
that.
dope was
Genius.
that?
Genius.
You start the night with just like a little floor, and it just gets bigger as the night goes on.
I love that
G
idea.
shit. Yeah, that's a fucking.
That's the kind of
Brilliant.
shit Lauren and them would do. They would come up with these. It's like they just said, how can we make the most incredible ideas of our imagination and our dreams come true? And they would do it. To finally finish the Kathy Lee point is that I saw her come in and sit down next to Lauren Goshinsky at a coffee shop. And she had just finished college at CMU and was going back to New York. And I, without eavesdropping, I mean, I was right next to him. I literally heard their conversation, and Kathy Lee said, I want to make it. I will be shooting for the stars. I'm going to do this. Lauren, teach me what you can. Help me because I'm doing this with or without you. What can you teach me? What can you show me? And it was that unbridled ambition that I heard in her that made me know that I don't have that gene. I don't have that DNA.
Meaning you think that like you literally don't want to be a full-time DJ, or you just don't think that you can pull it off?
If you asked me if life was rigged in my favor.
It is. It is. You're white.
Hey.
You're a white man. With 4 working limbs, normal brain, relatively okay
normal
looking.
brain.
That's never been rigged in anyone's favor more. That's what I tell, I mean, like, I don't know what you've been through. Like, don't get me wrong. But we've all been through some shit. Like, but I think, if you're in America, if you're not being bombed, like in a fucking refugee camp in Gaza or Yemen or Sudan, like being woken up with fucking tents getting cut open by machetes and like your family getting chopped up, like you got it pretty good. You never have to worry about where your next meal's coming from. You never have to worry about whether there's clean water to drink, where your shit gets flushed, whether or not like your government is going to be dissolved next month. I mean, well, we kind of have to sometimes think about, but no, it's like we're in the lap of luxury, baby.
I think that is exactly the case, white or black, gay or straight, in America. We are times of there's let's just say people are going down the water slide by day and then coming home at night saying this place sucks. It's like, okay, all right. America has things that it should be and often is criticized for rightly, but I hope that people will. If you were born into freedom, it's easy to spit at it. Is the only point I'll say. I won't go too.
I hear you. I think the only thing I would push back on is like there are these research studies where they compare job opportunities based on the name that's on the application without the employer being able to actually, see the person. So they don't know, what they look like. The resumes are identical, but one's name is, Jamal, and the other guy's name is Mike. And so they give Mike the job much more often. And that's been used as evidence of like institutionalized racism. There's other things like, you know, like
Did you see the Mark Cuban and
oh
Elon
yeah,
Musk debate on Twitter or
yeah,
whatever
about
recently about this?
DEI. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think Mark Cuban actually makes some pretty solid points at times, right? He's like, literally, all we're trying to do is just open up the applicant pool. That's all we're saying. Like, we're saying that, and then the other strong point, like that's definitely true, right? We should consider as many people as we can possibly, right, and make sure we get the best person. The other good point I thought was, sometimes it's good to have like alternative perspectives. I think about it in medicine very often, is that there are things about the experience of somebody who grew up in a Haitian household, who grew up in a Cuban household, who grew up in whatever, ethnicity, that you might not know about if you haven't had that lived experience. And you might not be able to provide as good of medical care, possibly because you just don't know. Like, let's say cultural practices in Africa related to putting mud on the umbilical cord after birth. And the baby comes in and they're wearing a shirt, but the baby's very sick. And you're trying to figure it out and you don't even look. But like, it could be Clostridia tetani, right? They could have tetanus poisoning from the mud, which is on the umbilical cord. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't know about that practice if you hadn't grown up in that culture, maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's all kinds of examples I feel like that you can give, but being more culturally competent, like knowing more about other people's experiences, is probably a good thing. And if there are people on the team that have that lived experience, then that's probably good also. So I don't know. I think
my take is that diverse voices and lifting up unheard voices is super important. To do it by the threat of a quota or or else, seems ludicrous to me. It's like, in what other world is that appropriate?
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about unconscious bias, and I think you were a little bit with like the name on applications and stuff like that, which is interesting. And something to think about. Life in America has never been a meritocracy. Although we like to think of it as being that. Old school DJs like to, chin scratching 40-plus-year-old DJs love to think about how great it used to be when all that mattered was talent and not how many Instagram followers you have. And they'll talk your ear off about that. And it's boring. It's like, come on. If you got the talent and they don't, show them what's up.
Make a video. Yeah. Demonstrate it.
That's the easy thing.
You'll have 100,000
The talent's not the easy thing.
Followers overnight.
If you're complaining about how beat them at their own game if it's like that.
Totally agree. Totally.
It's nauseating.
Yeah. The gatekeeping and the ivory tower syndrome and the, holier than thou, and I've been through it and you haven't. So it's not productive. Mm. We have to, I liked a little video from Busta Rhymes I saw, I think this morning or yesterday, where he was talking about how, you have to make room for the next, it's not your time anymore. It's time to bring in the next group. Have you seen anybody that's come up out of Pittsburgh, or anybody in like the next generation that excites you, or that's that you've been inspired by?
One of my favorite producers in the scene and locally is and DJ is Charlie Scott.
C. Scott.
C. Scott.
Yeah, amazing. Moma Nadon and C. Scott.
Yes.
Slime.
Soul Slime.
Soul Slime.
That's Moma's
amazing
label.
Amazing. And
but Charlie, not just he's incredible. He's not just on the boom bap tip. If you haven't heard his great house releases on wax off of different labels, locally Pittsburgh Track Authority out of Chicago, he had one on Lumberjacks in Hell. The kid can do it all.
Amazing.
We used to DJ together at the Goldmark. We had a party called For the Record.
That's right.
That was a Wednesday night excuse to come play your records with with our friends.
Sure.
Which was awesome. And thanks, many shout outs to Nugget and those guys for having that space there. It's so incredible.
Nick and Nugget. Nicks and Nugs. We love you guys.
Do you ever have Adam on here?
Oh yeah,
He did a podcast.
he did the
Yeah.
podcast. You gotta check it out. It's a good one.
Did he tell us the story about how he got that location?
Trying to remember. I think he's told me, but I don't think he talked about it on the podcast.
When he looked at that space with a realtor, the old owner of the Cuban restaurant was there. I think it was called Salud.
Yeah.
He called him over and said, "What's your idea for the place?" And Adam told him. Apparently, they might have put in the second to lowest bid on the place, and the guy gave it to him anyway.
Wow. Was it because he liked the idea of having it be a little like a dive bar, or like Nugget sold it really well, like explained it?
I think he liked the idea of it being culturally important.
That's so dope. And it so is, right? I mean, he's totally like kept his word there because it really is eclectic. It's not just for one group of people. It's everybody in the area feels comfortable there.
Absolutely. He's made a spot for party goers to come get the whole spectrum of DJ culture in the city. His influence can't be. He's one of my top favorite DJs in the city for sure. I don't think there's many that can hang or touch him.
Nah, best club DJ in Pittsburgh, I say.
My other favorite DJs in the city, since we're on it, are Jason Pascuzzi. Do you know him?
Nah.
Yeah, Scooz.
J Pass?
Yeah, he might do that on some flyers.
Maybe.
He's got crates for eons. Still does. Still buys records. Like, I mean, I'm lucky if I'm picking up 2-3 copies every month or every other month of something. I'm not buying records like I used to in any way, shape, or form. But for me, it's like once you got a couple thousand records, you really gotta. It's really got to be something you think you're gonna play 10 years from now. You know, so you have to be a little more discerning. In my view, when I was young, you just buy everything that sounded hot or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's still on it. Juwan Allen I came up with and learned a great deal from him in the Technoir audio crew. Known for house and techno, but can rock any party there is. Paul Dang. Do you know Paul Dang?
Yeah, I've heard Paul Dang.
An absolute killer behind the turntables. And just like, for me, it was an old friend, Tom Cox, who once said, I don't know if this is his, but he said the best DJs are 50% nerd, 50% gangster. And if you're too much of one or the other, it's a problem. And I couldn't agree with that sentiment anymore. If you're not doing the homework enough and are just out there doing bravado show, smoke and mirrors or whatever, that'll run its course. If you're just trying to play the most obscure, rare, OG original pressing of something, it's like, come on, man, like, yeah, loosen up, like let's get in the mood here. Like let's play a party. This is a party after all. We're not trying to. It's not about us in a lot of ways. So
I love that.
Being that balance, I think, is the most important thing. Who else is my favorite? I love the new vinyl guys, Michael Palladini, who you've had on the show, Cameron, DJ Wabi Sabi, Paul Seif. We got a crew of people who are really pushing records, which is so great. So great to see. But out of like the hip hop contingent, I'm sorry, Selecta, but Nate the Fat is my favorite.
Oh, dope. That's cool. What about the what's it called? Titletown guys? Like
oh yeah. J
Malls and
Gordy.
Yeah.
Those guys are great.
I've known collectors, people who go to the like vinyl kind of exchange events and sell records and things like that.
J Malls is someone I've known since the beginning of this for me, being in the record game. So he used to work at Jerry's, and an absolute like incredible mind and knowledge of of the music. We need more guys like him.
I mean, Bus Crates to me is the other like heavy hitter when it comes to playing vinyl in Pittsburgh.
For sure.
Yeah, Bus Crates and you are kind of the two that I think about.
There's no one like Bus, and no one ever will. If we didn't have him, we wouldn't be able to invent him. He's just an incredibly unique individual. I know of no one who's as talented and as like cool, like nice, and just a really sweet human.
Sad person though. Like when it comes down to it, don't you feel like he's like you wish he could find the joy?
Oh no, that's ingrained in the Pittsburgh DNA. People don't get their roses here. That should. And it becomes part of your identity.
Yeah.
Brother Mike and Jason Pascuzzi are two deep house legends in this city who play together a lot. They do a party. Oh, please don't let me forget to mention Tom Brown, who Pascuzzi, Brother Mike, and Tom Brown do a party right now at Spirit called
dope.
Hijack. No, they just had the great Ocean Latte here. Look them up.
Yep. Yeah, I'll put it in there.
They're incredible. You know who I've been really incredibly vibing with the last few times I've played with is Dave Clever.
Okay.
Do you know him?
Yeah.
He's doing this party at Fat Cat. That's great. He's a old school rave DJ who just has incredible crates, can play across the board. And when he and I play together, it's like thunder lightning. It's like Ali Frazier. It's like
amazing.
It's really, really great. Pittsburgh has and I'm sure everyone on your podcast must come on here and say Pittsburgh has an unusually stupid amount of talent.
Totally. That's Kahari Mosley said it best. Pittsburgh punches above its weight.
Oh yeah. It's just it's a shame that there's no such thing as like nightlife socialism or whatever, because like people will not support things that they don't. Pittsburgh's weird. It's like Pittsburgh will be like, I don't like the way that guy shook my hand. It's like, okay, dude, relax. It's all right.
I think it's a lot of who you know. You know, it's like in terms of who's getting the gigs right now and like trying to get into this, get back into nightlife. It's like talent is really low priority, like very, very low. I definitely feel.
I feel really lucky to still be a part of presenting music to willing crowds in the small way that I can, and I'm going to keep doing it until I'm not asked anymore. I know there's a shelf life to this, contrary to robot mutants like DJ Selecta and the guys that are just weirdly getting better with age. Like that's not normally how it works. I sometimes don't think they're human. It's like how are your powers increasing, Jim? Honestly,
he does it for the right reasons.
Facts.
Do you I feel like you didn't really talk much about taking photos, like how you got into it and what like how it became
after I left
an actual career.
After I left career, I don't know if I'd call it that. After I left Pitt, I went and did a 1-year intensive program at Pittsburgh Filmmakers. Rest in peace. There, I and 7 other students learned the art, craft, and business of picture making. And we were really incredibly lucky to be taught by some very incredible, I keep using the word incredible, unique individuals in the city who have done some important things. Richard Kelly and Sue Abramson, Yvette Spradlin, and even more lucky than that, I was taught by a National Geographic fellow named Lynn Johnson, who is, it could be said, is one of the greatest photographers in the world. At the times, I had photojournalistic ambitions, but since then, it's I still have thoughts in regards to that. But since then, it's like I do environmental portraiture. I take pictures of people in their element. So like a boxer in the ring, barber in the shop, that kind of thing. Mostly natural light. I do some studio work. Um, I try to incorporate it into music. You know, who knows? Maybe I'll need it all when I'm releasing a record or
Direct
something.
your own music video.
Yeah, of course. Right now I'm working on this project that I hope will be something that truly exists in the spring of this year, called Untethered, which will be a quarterly zine that revolves around a party when it's released, which will feature interviews, because I'm like, I want to do what you do essentially. I want
Come through.
to talk to people who I think are doing things.
You can use this spot. Come through anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well,
Hit me up.
absolutely.
$250 an hour. Just book me at one of your shows. You get one interview for every time I get to DJ.
Well, I don't have a show. I'm a hired gun.
You told me it was your party.
It's no. It's so Jarrett, Disco Sunday Disco, is that what you're asking about? Jarrett asked me to come on when he invented it, and he did it. He got the venue, he came up with the concept, he came up with everything, and then brought me on. And now I play almost every other one, or something. But he has guests, and it's his
Okay.
ship to sail,
Okay.
essentially.
All right, fair enough.
But I'm
so $250 then.
I feel okay. I feel like like it's like a community effort. In a lot of ways, it is. Disco Sunday Disco has a lot of moving parts, and it's all because people love it and want it to succeed. I hope everyone will come out to the next one.
Dope. When is it?
We had to cancel this last one that was due at the end of January because it got not only freezing cold, but it got wet. The real thing that only will ever stop a Disco Sunday Disco is wetness. So the next one I think should be late February.
I think the last one I was at, I was dancing in the rain, and it was one of the best times I've ever had.
Oh, well, yeah, we ain't scared. We ain't scared.
Just saying.
Rain in the summertime's different.
It's nice. Yeah.
It's a whole vibe. I hope everyone can experience it.
I like dancing on the concrete blocks on the side.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of an
exhibitionist.
Yeah.
I seen you up there.
Nobody took my picture when I was up there, though. It was kind of sad. But there are some decent shots from that night. So
yeah, you took some cool photos.
Yeah, I like to bring the camera out.
When did you start shooting?
Because when I started DJing for a living in New York. I had had this company called Croc Mode, and my job was to throw parties and to get bookings and get paid to do press at music festivals, to book other DJs and to like turn it into a business, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Never really fully pulled it off. Like I was always kind of doing other things. There was a company called TaskRabbit, which I was like putting people's IKEA furniture together in their apartments in the Lower East Side and Upper West Side. I was teaching at the Dwight School, teaching DJing at the Dwight School a little bit. I drove this lady to work for like 6 months when she broke her leg. Rich white lady. I used to drive before Uber and Lyft. I drove for this rave company called Zero Party. It's kind of legendary in Brooklyn. Got to meet some really dope DJs through it. I became friends with Majid Cocoon, who's like a Berlin / Tel Aviv DJ, and Jobsy, and I drove a bunch of them from the airport when they would fly in from the Netherlands or from Germany or wherever. I would drive them to the flat in Williamsburg that the dude who hired me would have them staying at. But when I would do it, I would have records from my buddies to try to convince them to play like that night at the party.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have Alex Burkat's new record on 100% Silk or whatever. And I would give it to him. So that was a fun little gig. But basically, I was.
I used to buy records off of that label, Buy on Site.
So dope.
Yeah.
That That's cool.
2008 to 2012.
I have one of them back here. Let me see. There you go. So that's I love that record so much. Is that Shower Power, or which one is that?
Tara, Last Cigarette
Okay.
is side A.
Oh, Tarot and Last Cigarette. So basically, I threw one party, which was Game of Thrones themed, called Thrones and Bones at Spike Hill. I had like pretty solid lineup. Party went great. I hired a photographer, kind of a legendary dude. He his name's Igor. He has a company called Driven by Boredom, and he mostly does porn now. He like goes to the whatever it's called, VHA, or like whatever the big like awards thing is in Vegas. He goes to Gathering of the Juggalos and takes photos there. He's like a really interesting dude. He also has like a big Miami Dolphins fan club in New York City. Interesting guy. But I hired him to take photos of my party. He took unbelievable pictures, killer, posted them on his blog, got a ton of heat from it. It went great. It was $500. I didn't make $500 that night. It cost me money to throw the party because I had hired this photographer. The bands all played for free. Like if I had $100, I would pay the band. Like, or the DJ, I'd give him $100, $200 if we were lucky, whatever. If it was just one or two of us, it was booking Chalupa or Danny. But I couldn't afford it, so I just did what I could. I bought a Canon like Rebel, and like kit lens. Started taking pictures. Started practicing.
An economic reason.
Started getting better. Yeah, it was purely economics. But by the time I got to Florida, I had actually gotten good and had better shit. Like I started getting hired by a club down there called Revolution Live to take photos. And that's how I met my wife. I was booked for bingo players, and I was just trolling on.
Did you snap a photo of her the day you met her?
We have incredible pictures.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so rad.
Yeah, I actually picked her up, and my buddy Ant snapped like 2 or 3 pictures of us. It's just a sick photo. I'll put it in, obviously. But yeah, it was an amazing night, and bingo players was only one dude by the time. I think the other guy had died, but it was a great show, and a lot of the concerts that I took pictures of down there were totally worth it. I was doing it for tickets, so like that's how they would pay me. They would give me two passes, and it was not backstage, but like in the pit, VIP, wherever you wanted to go with a friend, and like some pretty decent shows. I Am, the rap crew from France. Bingo, of course. The Static Selecta rapper who came with Static Selecta. What was his name? Who else? Aesop Rock. Or Aesop Rock. Not ASAP Rocky, but Aesop Rock.
I saw him perform at a strip club in Miami during Art Basel. It was great.
Which one?
It was
Scarlett's?
It was the place that's across the street from Space.
Oh, 11.
Yeah.
Nice. That's amazing.
It was amazing. It was a show.
Aesop at 11?
It was a show.
Last time I was at 11, I ended up at Rick Ross's table.
Yeah?
So that was an interesting...
Did you turn up?
It was a fun time. I'm not going to lie. It's a good time. I had fun.
Did you take a selfie?
You
got pictures with Rick Ross?
I got lost before he went on. But it's a story for another time. It was a good time.
I'd had to refrain from asking Billy Porter for a selfie the other day. He was at my table at the restaurant I work at.
Oh shit, nice.
And I was like, I'm wearing my like work uniform next to this gorgeous specimen. It's like I'll let it pass.
I was trying to remember who. I think it was like a doorman in New York. It was like this. There's like a New York doorman or something like that. He actually has like a famous Twitter page, and he was talking about how he's seen a million famous people. He doesn't take pictures with them because it's corny.
Yeah,
it's kind of like what really do you get out of it? You know, maybe a little social media, something.
Sure. I mean,
Anyway, I think you made the right decision, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah. Now, if I was dressed to the nines, I would want to document that picture, that moment with the great one
Right.
and only Billy Porter,
Hell yeah.
Pittsburgh's finest. Who have I? Cool Bob Love. I got a selfie with him once. Cucumber Slice, with radio show with Stretch Armstrong.
Oh yeah, Bobito.
Yeah.
Of course.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw that.
Who else have I taken selfies with? I met Sean Penn once.
Oh, nice. He's the one who went to Katrina, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's
He's a
pretty
hero
cool.
of mine.
Yeah.
Great actor. He was driving a black Mustang that had mud all over it. I don't know what he was doing, but it looked like fun.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Shout out to Detroit. So to finish the story of Pittsburgh taking pictures, I would say like that was probably about as far as I ever got. Although I ended up press for Movement, right? So I got press at Movement.
That's nice.
And got to like in 2014. And so I took some pretty amazing pictures that year. I got those interviews. I took some dope pictures from the pit at like all 4 stages. And that's probably about as far as I got with it. Now my kids have great pictures, they hopefully they'll appreciate it someday.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to do more portraiture, I think, but it's also, you got to pick your battles. I think this is a great, like these cameras don't really come down off of these posts anymore. Mostly when I go out to the club, I'll take the film, like I'll take a 35 millimeter film camera with a good flash and just light people up and hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
If I get a couple shots of the DJ, like great.
Mm.
If they don't come out, there's no skin off my back, and it fits in your pocket, so you can still dance, especially in the winter. You can have it inside a coat pocket or something like that.
Yeah, I have a daily shooter, the Fuji Expert 1, which is old as anything, but I'm not hauling a DSLR out with me just to go to a nightclub and snap a few pics of my friends or whatever.
Yeah.
So just having that nice little compact ability
That's cool.
is incredible.
With a zoom on it?
No, it's a fixed
35 or wider?
Even wider.
20
it's
or
like
15. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the way that Lido does it is the right way, right? Just iPhone with a big ass light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Shout out Lido Corpus.
Lynn Johnson teaches a iPhone photojournalism course.
Can get some amazing stuff on it, especially that cinematography mode with on the video tip. That's how Monos does all his videos.
We know some mutual, if not current, some former Detroit journalists.
Oh, you're friends with Carlton, right?
Carlton Goltz.
Yeah, we got to talk about Carlton. When we were talking about Derek May, we should have talked about him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his graduate thesis at Pitt was
on
Jeff Mills.
Jeff Mills, the wizard.
Yep.
I went on a road trip with Carlton to go see Jeff Mills. He DJ'd in a sports bar inside the baseball stadium. Is it Comerica Park?
Oh, that's really cool. I never heard this story. That's crazy.
He did a wizard set at the sports bar inside the stadium, and I forget the promoter's name. Adriel Thornton, I think was the promoter's name. But he was there. Carlton recorded the night from like a small little
Tascam.
Yeah,
dope.
So
dope.
He has it.
Of course he does.
But Carlton's an incredible human being, a good friend, and I haven't talked to him in a very long time, but love that guy to death.
Yeah, he's a very, very unique, amazing person. I was super blessed to be able to get to know him at Pitt because he was involved with WPTS. So I bumped into him because I was DJing on the radio because of Marcus Harris, MH the Verb. He saw me trying to be a DJ at one of these frat parties, and he said, "You got to come to the radio station. That's where the turntables are. If you want to learn, they've got turntables. Come check it out. They've got a whole room full of wax. Like this is where it's at." And he put me on his show, Pit Remix, put me on his crew, started booking me at, putting me on it at his club nights at Spice Cafe in Oakland. And then we had Masai Turner and like Strict Flow, the guys from Strict Flow. Was it Super C, the DJ?
Chip. Yeah, Super C.
Like telling me, it was a crazy story, like very embarrassing for me. But I had my own turntables there, I think. And he started just like immediately taking my needles off, rebalancing them, like flipping, like taking the counterweight and flipping it around. And I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, stop touching my turntables. And then as soon as he starts mixing, it was just,
oh,
I had never seen anybody juggle before like that, where he could completely control everything, right? He was in complete control of both records at the same time. There were no mistakes. It was just unbelievable.
Without a doubt, the most talented DJ to ever come out of Pittsburgh, in my opinion.
Wow.
Numero uno.
Wow. Yeah, I was really impressed. And, he was there with Masai, and shout out to MH for making it happen. But because I was there, I was just leaving my show, and the next group was coming in, and it was Cut Ups and Keebs with Carlton. I think Carlton was guesting on one of their shows, and he was wearing a Detroit Lions shirt or a Detroit Lions hat. Can't remember which.
Because you had the Michigan connection?
Had the Michigan connection.
Yeah.
I said, "What's up, dude?" And we became fast friends. He ended up putting me on his radio show in Boston. We had a radio show called the Sacco and Vanzetti Dance Party, which lasted almost a year. And we still have a bunch of them online. There's probably like 9 or 10 at least. And lived together in Boston for a year in Jamaica Plain. One of the best years of my life.
I'll tell you what, there was no better host to go visit the city of Detroit with than Carlton Golds. We went to the coolest parties. He had an infinite well of knowledge of everything about the city, the buildings and the everything, just like, and he knew everybody, and he's very loved, and so
he's the real deal, man. He's like, when it comes to intellectuals, when it comes to just like people who really have their heart in the music, that's the man. Detroit, shout out to Detroit Sound Conservancy. If anybody, is inspired and interested in what it means to really do the work of historic preservation, what it really means to do the work of preserving legacies, where you're actually meeting with people like Ken Collier, like the DJ who taught the Belleville 3, like the DJ who inspired a generation of Detroiters to become DJs. And Carlton was the guy who got those interviews because he was way ahead of it, right? He was ahead of the curve. He knew that these people were not going to be around forever. So he went and got those interviews, and he saved them. He went into the Greystone Jazz Museum when the roof had caved in, and went in with a group of Michigan State students and saved everything. Like, he went in, they bought the damn building of the Bluebird Inn, where everyone from, Miles Davis to John Lee Hooker to B.B. King had been on the damn stage. And the stage was still in that building with the roof gone, being rained on, with birds and squirrels shitting on the same stage where John Lee Hooker had performed.
Mm-hmm.
And he saved that stage, and he took it to France piece by piece, and had, man, I'm going to mess this up. I can't remember the famous musician, but there was a famous musician who performed on the stage in France, like on this stage that was just being left there, It's like,
it's amazing. I didn't know that. Carlton's the real deal. Real deal Holyfield, for sure. He,
So go donate money to Detroit Sound is the point, if you care about that stuff. It's just DetroitSound.org, DetroitSound.org. And it's worth checking out. So see what they're up to. Mm-hmm. They've turned that building that I was talking about, the Bluebird Inn is like being transformed into their preservation space, kind of like a museum. So it'll be in the front, it'll be like a coffee shop, and in the back, it'll all be archives, so that Carlton doesn't have to keep that shit in his basement or apartment anymore. Because he used to just have these tubs, just tubs on tubs. It's like, what is that? Oh, that's the actual placard from the original jazz museum in Detroit. Like, it's like, it's the same thing with Dilla's records, right? It's like all this stuff is in private hands. There's just no reason. It's insane. The fact that we don't care about our legacy, about the legacy of this music that we're doing. It's not being preserved. There's nobody doing, like, the government will not do it. They're not interested. And I don't know if they should be, frankly. I'm not sure. Like, that's kind of a complicated conversation, but it takes people with chutzpah. It takes people with balls, with energy, motivation, people who are impassioned, who just won't sleep for, 6 weeks straight to make it happen, who will go in the middle of the night when they hear that the fucking roof collapsed and just make it happen. You gotta, I don't know. Pretty incredible. So go support.
Big time.
Carlton Goals. You got records?
I do. I brought a couple. Want to hear one?
Heck yeah. Oh, that works good. MFSB.
Dexter Wansell wrote and produced this, and his records get played heavily at our party.
It's incredible.
Very lush. Just absolute best.
No vocal?
No.
I love that. I always feel like it's important to start a night with a record that doesn't have vocals. Like, especially a female vocal. Like, if you bring in a female vocal too early, you kind of like shot your shot. It's like you went too, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You got to save it a little.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any strict rules. I oftentimes like versing male and female vocals back to back, like to have them talk to each other.
Totally. That's a very reggae thing. That's like what I would see in the clubs in Belize.
Oh, yeah?
They would do like a record for the ladies with a female vocal, and all the women would get on the dance floor and kill it. And then they would do a record for the guys, the Badman anthem, and it would just be a male vocal, and only the guys would be dancing. We'd keep switching back and forth.
The newest record I brought is one of the hottest things I think that came out last year. I tried to make it a summer anthem as much as I could. There's a disco mix of it on here, but I like the original because I like to play it at halftime.
Oh shit!
And it's by the Broken Beat jazz legend Katie Tatham. I'll throw it on here if that's all right.
Amazing.
So what is your reply? The world's a ticking time bomb, running out of time. That was just a metaphor. I know we will survive. If you take my hand, we can go for a ride. You decide, babe. I hope you choose a we. I know wherever you go, it's just where I wanna be. And if you say yes to the journey of love, there's no worries at all. Are you ready? Get steady, 'cause we're going away. Yeah.
The disco mix has like a more 4 on the floor hammered vibe to it, but I like this one. It's just so pretty, right?
Don't you know? Can't deny.
What a voice.
Did you ever get into the broken beat scene at all? Stuff like
Fat Boy?
no,
That's
like
Big Beat.
Digo, IG Culture. It's like slowed down drum and bass. It's like they call it broken beat because it's like a little off. It's not your typical like 4 on the floor.
Flying Lotus?
In some instances, maybe.
Patterning Grid World behind me, maybe a little bit?
Yeah, in some instances maybe, but I'd call him more like low tech or low fi, whatever. But,
you know, baby.
While she's giving us the business, I'll put on this.
But when I look into your eyes, heaven just seems to come down before us. It was you and me, baby.
Get those cat hairs off.
I know we can conquer the world together. Just you and I.
There it is.
This is the one your boy had to have. He had to have all.
It wasn't just my recording, obviously.
Oh yeah, it sounds a little rough.
Yeah, it's just the compression is just like very low, basically, something like that, right?
All the shitting on Pittsburgh I did, and I played this one. It's just so great though.
What's the word? Pittsburgh, now the bird stands for victory. The Steelers are the football kings. The Pirates are so great to me. Solid enough.
you know the story of this record or like who the musicians are or anything?
I've heard that they're British, right?
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
That's why it's so weird. That's why it's so weird.
Oh, that's weird.
It's like, why did they do this? I don't know. I think he might have been from here and then recorded it in England. I think that's
crazy.
What do you think they were thinking right before they went into the studio? They were like, what do you say we just go pull out of the incredible funky number in ode to the great city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania? All right.
What year was it?
I don't know. I have to look. I think
70s, right?
76, 77. It's probably at the height of...
They were having Steelers, right? Like the Steelers were kind of bumping and...
Pirates were definitely bumping.
Yeah. Just a guitar, yeah. We need more disco guitar. Slept on.
Pittsburgh's finest, George Benson.
Incredible.
I've seen a lot of b-boys get down to this song right here. We didn't even talk about the Get Down Gang.
No, I remember them from Shadow, of course. That was huge.
So
Kelly Mays and...
Kelly was with the Get Down Gang?
No, these were the people that I would have been like experiencing at the time.
So my early
Selecta,
experiences with
Kelly,
b-boys were in small, tight-knit dance floors, and I initially, and I always had kind of a like, you guys are taking up a lot of real estate.
Oh, that's exactly how I felt. They would always take up the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was trying to like meet girls and like Mac and
yeah
and whatever, and there was no place to dance because dudes were
Putting
doing
on a
head
show.
spins.
I always preferred, yeah. I always preferred a more vibey dance floor instead of someone being on the spotlight for sure. But I got introduced to DJ Stealth through a friend named D, Daryl, who he booked us for the same thing, and it was like immediate, like you knew right away these are your people. Stealth and his wife Tina used to throw these events in their house, a weekly party where they would essentially have a dance practice, but it was a party because everyone would come and drink and socialize, and dancers would come and practice, and and some incredible people there. Before we got on here, we were talking about Claude Paradise Gray. He'd be hanging out. Ed Piscor, legendary.
Is that Edgar
No, Ed Piscor is a 3-time Eisner Award-winning comic book artist. He developed a series called Hip Hop Family Tree. That if you don't know, like I'll loan you all of them. They're incredible. He tells the story of hip hop in comic book form in large format, and it's incredible. He's a big deal. But he would be on the couch working because he liked to be around the environment of DJs, people spinning on their heads, MCs, and so these parties were seminal to me, and can't be understated enough how much that culture, specifically b-boying, just is really important to me. And those guys are incredible. The Get Down Gang.
Why do you think that you haven't gone that direction then, like more of the hip hop side, like become a hip hop DJ, like Selecta or I don't know?
So it's just by the basis of that question, it's like if you heard me spin at the Goldmark anniversary party that just happened like a month or two ago, I played a predominantly hip hop set. I got those records in ad nauseum. I got tons of hip hop records, and I play them. I like to play all things. It's other people who want to say, "Oh, do you know the disco guy Anthony, or do you know the techno guy Juan, or whatever?" I got all those records, so I don't prescribe any one sound, and I shuck off anyone who wants to put me in a box, whether it be disco or whether it be like Mr. Vinyl. I hate that shit. It's like it's like I call it an Appalachian snobbery. It's like stay in your lane. Who do you think you are? You know, I'm sure you experienced that too, right? Did you ever get questions like that? Like,
stay in your lane, doctor. Don't come and rock. Like, that's
oh yeah,
been the
you're
main
just a
story
doctor.
for the last 6 months. Absolutely.
Oh man, it's so prevalent here. When Nugget and I guess through some advertising organization brought Questlove to DJ in the South Side something like 12, 15 years ago at a club called Elixir.
Yeah.
I was telling my friend at the time, Tom Cox, I said, "Oh man, it was great. Questlove, he rocked it. He rocked the house." And he goes, "Questlove's not a DJ." I'm like, fuck.
One of my favorite DJs of all time, without a doubt. Unbelievable.
I was
the
like,
sample sets he used to do where he would, still does.
Yeah, he's amazing. And has earned the stripes of, like, he's got the records.
Somebody said recently that neo soul is the sound of a mere left hand and right foot.
I like that.
That's what it is. He is the sound of neo soul.
Drumming
His
is
drum kit.
is my start in music.
You were a musician too?
I played drums. Chip, DJ Super C, used to be in a band called Beam. That was incredible. They would have a Kill on the MC duties. Dave Throckmorton was the drummer and Chip was the DJ. And I can't remember they had a spacey, like, live guitarist, synth player. But they would do live drum and bass. They would do it all. And Throck was my drum teacher. And if you don't know him, you got to look into him. He's one of the best drummers, not only in the city. He's I think one of the best out there.
Wow.
Period. Just so in the pocket, just so clean. Like, he is in the same conversation as Roger Humphreys and maybe beyond. Who just had a birthday, by the way. Roger Humphreys.
Happy birthday, Raj.
Had a birthday.
Amazing. So that's how you kind of pivoted to get your first set of turntables, or who kind of convinced you to do it?
Turntables?
Yeah, like how did you become a DJ?
Well, like I said earlier, me and my friend Chris were watching these transmissions from the Detroit Electronic Music Festival.
That's where that fit in.
We were seeing
recordings,
DJs, yeah,
on the real player.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were trying to copy and emulate, and that was kind of like the techno.
We were so enthralled that we it's like we knew this is what we wanted to do.
Yeah,
and then it wasn't. We were young, so
it was late 90s.
Yeah, 99.
99 was the beginning, right? Or 99, and then 2000 were kind of like the first couple of years.
It wasn't until 2003 that we actually got to go to Detroit and see it.
Yeah,
and for ourselves,
and
it was free. The festival was free in that time.
I remember.
And the vibe was incredible.
Crazy. I was in a car with my buddy Kalen. It was the second one, year 2000. And we were in the car with all like 19, 20, 21-year-old girls. There was like 4 or 5 of them. It was him and me in the back seat. all of them just like decked out to the nines, just like beautiful jewelry, clothes, you know, like pantsuits and just gorgeous. And we're these two scrubs from Ann Arbor, just no idea how we ended up in that car. And I will never forget the song they put on. As soon as we sit down, it's like drugs, rock and roll, badass, Vegas hoes, late night, booty calls, shiny disco balls, disco. And then the 808, like the fucking Alpines in the trunk kick in. Disco, disco, disco. It's incredible. And they took us to a club, and neither of us could get in because neither of us had IDs. We weren't 18. We literally just needed to be 18 to get into the club to go party with all these beautiful women.
Oh, yeah.
And we were not 18.
You weren't even 18. I got, so our first years there, we were like 19, and we were trying to get into Oslo's, this incredible sushi restaurant, which had a nightclub in the basement.
Oh, dope.
Later became a famous place for whiskey, disco. Anyway, I don't know.
Whiskey A Go-Go? That'd be the legendary LA venue.
Yeah, right. That it's not that. It's something out of Detroit. But 2003 in Detroit at the actual festival was the first time I saw the Three Chairs perform, and the Three Chairs were made up of Moody Man, Theo Parrish, Rick Wilhite, and Marcellus or Malik Pittman. And this was the first time that I heard both house music and like deep disco cuts being played together in an environment where people are losing their minds, drenched in sweat. Look, can we?
Of course.
Can we talk about?
You can keep it real.
What it means to like go to the club and dance your ass off. Like, I don't see it anymore.
No.
I see the clubs as being a place people go to be seen.
People aren't dressed to sweat. You can see it as soon as they walk in. And you could fix that in a second, right? All you need is the right doorman. Just let people in who look like they want to dance. That's not hard. You can literally look at someone and tell if they are going to be able to dance. Based on what they're wearing.
Thank you. Thank you for saying so. I think that gatekeeping is important.
At the door, hell yes.
You know,
that keeps people safe.
If there was a synopsis of our conversation, it's like gatekeeping needs rebranded because it's important and we should bring it back. It's like it needs
a new name.
It needs a new name or something because it was important in a major way. If we, I don't know. If we just had people who were there that cared, not chin scratchers, not people staring at you waiting for you to play the wrong thing.
Right, standing in the back of the DJ booth, like trying to figure out what records you're playing so they can snipe them from you.
No, that you don't want DJs at your DJ night. That's box office poison. Don't do that. Like that's you don't invite me to your DJ party. But
yeah, that's true, right? Like I get a lot of invites from people in Pittsburgh. There's a few who will send me their invites every time, and I'm thinking like, it ain't me, babe. I'm not the one you want. Like I'm an old, like not that, you know, like I'm washed up, man. Like my time has passed. You don't want me at your show.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I barely drink. I'm a good tipper, but I'm not exactly breaking the bar, you know?
Right.
Anyway. This was really fun.
Absolutely.
I can't believe how much knowledge you have about these. Like the Detroit scene is unbelievable. I feel like you've got another hour or two in you at least.
That's my second home, 100%. I've gone almost every single year since 2003. So it's been 20 plus years of me visiting and caring deeply about that sound and that scene.
Is it the music festival that you go to, or it's more
not anymore?
You're just going for pilgrimage. You're going to like go hear music independently at after parties, or totally separate from Memorial Day weekend?
Once the festival changed to not being all that Detroit centric and being European and big name big room sounding stuff. When the person next to you used to be, you know, an old lady and like a young person and kids in a very interesting, beautiful environment, and now it's furry boots and someone putting glow sticks in your face. It ain't me, but like you said, it ain't me. So, my experiences nowadays, the last 4 or 5 years or so, are mostly checking into the hotel, eating incredible food, going to see, doing a lot of record shopping, going to meet friends, and it's a lot of after parties, some incredible events that happen there. My go-tos right now are Peter Croce's event that happens at Motor City Wine on a Sunday. He runs the Rocksteady Disco label. He has incredible artists there, John Beltran. Everything they're doing over at Motor City Wine's great. What other party? The Moody Man throws a roller skating party that happens every other year or so. It's really great. I end up at Tangent Gallery. I end up, depending on how good the night goes, getting a Coney Island dog. And
Can't go wrong. Chili. That's a hot dog for the uninitiated. That's a hot dog with chili, liquid cheese, and little chopped onions on top.
Mm-hmm.
The bun is usually steamed, so the whole thing kind of just slides right down.
Oh yeah,
it's a very
steamy
good
is the adjective. We go get a slice of Buddies. We might go see the Diego Rivera mural.
Sure. DIA, Detroit Institute of Art.
Where else are we going? We're going to Submerge. We're going, just experiencing the city in a much less drug fueled ravey vibe, because those years are past me.
Where are the record stores?
Well, my favorite is Detroit Threads, mostly because they caters to what I love, which is dance floor hammers. And you'll get the latest release, especially Memorial Day weekend. If you get there early enough, you'll get the latest releases from some of your favorite artists, like most of the Detroit house and techno guys that I care about. That's got to be your first stop. On the new and used tip, I'd check out People's Records. Is it People's? Yeah, People's. And then,
I think Jack White has a record store now too.
Third Man. He has a record store and pressing plant that you can view and see there. I bought an ex-girlfriend a band she liked called the Dead Weather. You know it?
No.
Really hip, cool, new, dark rock band that he put out, or I think plays in. He might be in that band. But I said, I know where to go to find that.
And it was there.
Home base. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's an awesome store.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. Tony.
I appreciate you very much for having me on.
Oh, this was so much fun. Seriously. Got to run it back. I feel like there's so many more stories.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I'm always game.
Is there any way people can follow and support your work if they're interested?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Instagram as Pretty Tony Photo. That's basically the only place I'm living digitally these days. I can't do Twitter or Facebook really. I love Facebook, but like my grandma's on there, so
at Pretty Tony Photo, Instagram.
Yeah, check me out.
You heard it here first. One of the illest in Pittsburgh, no question. One of my favorites all time. Really love what you do. I always look forward to coming to hear you play. I think on vinyl, for sure, you cannot be touched. And I look forward to hearing more of your non-vinyl sets, too. I think that'll be really fun.
One of the reasons I'm here is because you and Michael, when you did your podcast together, threw a love bomb at me that was so sweet. And I felt sincerely, and I beyond like the imposter syndrome of like, like, all right, long may the illusion live that I'm nice with it up here. Thank you for saying someone else's name in the room that you felt deserved it. That goes a long way with me, and I really do appreciate that.
Oh, thanks for saying it, man. No, without a doubt, it's just what I I don't have a dog in the fight anymore. Like I think I probably said it a few times. I'm washed up, man. Like I'm not trying to be a DJ anymore. Like I'd love to play, but it's not going to be my career. And for me, it's very, very pure. It's like if I fuck with it, I'm going to promote it. If I have a good time, I'm going to let other people know because I want them to have a good time. That's it. And I think people who are doing it for the right reasons and who honestly just have it figured out, who have the craft figured out, and who are, genuinely dope, we should be lifting them up so that other people can catch wind. Well, you're fresh, sir.
You're super sick with it, and I remember you having the dance floor going crazy with this Belle Biv DeVoe edit thing that you played at Goldmark the last time I seen you. So if I ever am no longer just a gun for hire, if I get something off and running, trust me, I'll call you. Chocolate Boombox's Revenge or something coming.
I love that.
We'll get it cracking.
Oh yeah, where was Chocolate Boombox? I didn't ask.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that party. It started off. It was created by my friend Ollie and DJ Harry Lurker, the Harris Avenue Lurker. My dear friend Justin Coleman, who's out doing big things in the art world right now, real big things. But I want to say that party in its first conception maybe was started at New Amsterdam, and then it moved to Remedy. While Ollie was opening up for Moody Man for a VIA event, Lauren's venture, I think I might have done the hucksterous DJ thing. Like, hey man, I love your party. You should have me come through. He said, yeah. He was a little drunk. He might have forgot, but he had me come through, and we played so well together that it was obvious. Like this is it. And so we started doing that party at Remedy, and if you go to my Instagram page, you might, and if you look, you might find some old viral video footage of it. 2000, it was the Obama years. It was a great time. It was a great time. Okay, life was good. Just say that. And we were playing just dance floor hammers that people really responded to. After we had a falling out with Remedy, we moved it over to the brand new Spirit Lodge, which was right around the corner. Chocolate Boombox was the very first resident party that happened there. And so Spirit is my family too. I love them to death. Lee Yock, and
shout out Lee.
Yeah.
She was
Tom Barr.
She was really good to me when I was a DJ here in Pittsburgh too. I remember her booking me at this promotional tailgate that she had gotten through Icy Light when Icy Light tried to do Mango. She booked me to do the tailgate for the Steelers game.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. She was really good to me. Oh. Her and there's a ton. Like the whole crew was like the whole Nocturnal crew was really good to me. Always.
She had, and still to this day truly has her finger on the pulse of what's really hot and popping in the city. And she's someone whose taste you can always trust. And as you can see through their incredible programming at Spirit.
Totally. The other one who's working there now is Maddie. I think Maddie Lafferty, who I met through Dr. Dapp, who I had on the podcast, and she'll be on in a month or so.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm getting like more people who aren't DJs, man. Like I think the DJ thing is great, but I've had about like 30 now, and and so I'm trying to get more like bookers, talent, people on the talent side, people on the production side, management side.
Mm-hmm.
Influencers.
This
models.
is my one attempt at suggestion. I mentioned a few times today, Ollie.
Yeah.
Conda El Primero. If you wanted to interview someone who was a quad, I don't even know how you'd say it. Let's just say one of the best DJs, B-boys, graffiti writers, and he's a frontman of a punk band called Killer Sheep for a long time.
Whoa.
And he's I don't know if I should say his age, but he's seen it all throughout through.
Totally. Somebody who maybe I could talk to about the punk scene in Oakland, because that's one thing I'd love to hear more about the Decade, about the Electric Banana, like all the different kind of legendary Laga and all the different legendary venues in Oakland.
His punk roots go back to the 80s. So yeah,
That's what I need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Ali. All right, I'll look him up.
Mhm.
Thanks,
All right.
Tony.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, sir.
Let's get a picture.
Yeah, let's do it.